Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of She-Hulk Attorney at Law, The Retreat. And this was definitely another kind of episode. It wasn't completely and utterly outright bad. Like, there was potential for certain things going on with actually showing Jen doing shit with Josh and the whole stuff with the retreat with Emil. However, its execution of any of those kind of plot things don't really go very far or anywhere really. I do like how they tried to dig into Jen's whole kind of issues with being Jen and She-Hulk and how she really liked Josh because he was supposed to be into Jen and not just the whole She-Hulk kind of thing. And the thing is, they're both kind of one story, but it's more kind of like we get her doing like her montage thing about like Josh's dates first before getting to the whole Emil retreat later on. So we see that she's going through all this. She's going on these dates with Josh, texting him at work kind of shit, checking her phone and all that, until eventually she does sleep with him, and then pretty much 3 days later she still hasn't heard jack shit from him. It's like, alright, that's kind of weird. We'll have to see how this kind of works out. It works out exactly as you're thinking it will work out. She's pretty much constantly on her phone trying to figure out what's kind of going on. Nikki is like thinking that she's like trolling the Intelligentsia website thing, and she's like, no, I'm not doing shit with them. And she's like, listen, you need to fucking like do other shit. As we then see her on subsequent days pretty much trying to figure out kind of what the fuck's going on. Then she gets a call from Emil Blonsky's parole officer, and there was evidently an incident with his inhibitor going kind of funky-de-doo-dah, and the thing is he wants some backup to go and check, which is definitely a good call. Like, it's interesting to get this kind of perspective on a superpowered individual being paroled, and being like, okay, yeah, normally you'd probably go with uniformed police officers. However, that would only kind of work to a certain degree. I mean, granted, if you had enough, you could probably deal with like a Hawkeye or a Black Widow, and I'm talking you'd need enough. If you had someone on a cap level, kind of like a John Walker scenario, they could pretty much thunder kick you across the room, so you'd probably want someone at least on that kind of level to kind of deal with them, or who has had experience dealing with super soldiers, super serum individuals. We're talking about someone on the level of the Hulk, so of course he'd be calling Jen, and she's like, alright, fine, I didn't have anything to do today. And they go, he asked her to put on her green suit, they check it out, and we see that Emil is just doing his own kind of thing at the retreat. That he said that he was trying to save his chicken and accidentally touched an electric fence. They kind of fixed the whole thing, and it's alright and cool. The parole officer leaves, and then we kind of see that Jen wants to leave because there's no cell service, no Wi-Fi, none of that shit, and of course she's still on the whole Josh thing, while Emil's trying to actually provide adequate wisdom to her, which is an interesting kind of change. I do like what they have done with Emil Blonsky, because he definitely was kind of jacked up in like the Incredible Hulk. Here we have seen him change and really try and deal with things in a more healthy manner. We'll see if that kind of trend holds out when he's on the Thunderbolts team, and what kind of comes and transpires from that. But I really have liked seeing this kind of change in him as a person. Now, granted, I would have liked to have seen that kind of journey, because the way this has been executed, it's almost been an entirely different kind of person that we have seen, because the last bit we see was him going nutty-doo-dah, nutty day in the Incredible Hulk. Then he pops up in Shang-Chi for some fucked up reason that we still don't have any fucking adequate explanation for, other than cameo! Ah! But now he's just like, alright, I'm doing this retreat, which is kind of weird, because I still get a sketchy-ass feeling from it, of it being kind of similar to some kind of like Ponzi scheme thing, because he's talking about platinum members and shit like that, and I'm like, ain't nobody watching this dude? Because we see that he has like a circle for people, and a good portion of them are like superpowered, or at least could potentially have connections to superpowered kind of shit. And I'm just like, granted, that's cool, but somebody should be checking this shit out and making sure that things are okay. Unless, of course, you're probably Allegra Fontaine, who's the Countess that's like building her like her own stuff for the Thunderbolts, and probably is trying to use this to, I don't know, get some other kind of people on the Thunderbolts and do her own kind of shit with superheroes. So we'll see. But as Jen is trying to leave, we see this Man-Bull dude pop up with this other dude as they're fighting El Aguila. And the thing is, we learn that he has, like, bioelectric powers. And I think that's kind of what happened. There was a mishap, and it kind of fucked up his inhibitor rather than the whole electric fence. But the thing is, they pretty much bash and destroy her Prius, and, like, we see that they're kind of working through their issues. The El Aguila dude's pretty much saying that he's a swashbuckler, not a matador. The Man-Bull dude was pretty much genetically experimented on and is trying to, like, deal with his own shit. And, I mean, I was like, hey, why don't you just, like, kind of just putz around here before the tow truck? And he tries to give her the lowdown and everything. She's, like, not listening whatsoever. And it's really kind of weird. Almost to the point of, like, okay, listen, I understand that she's got her thing and he's got his thing, but it's almost like when those two people don't want to be here, why the fuck should I want to be here? I really don't. As she's just going around trying to troll and find everything for any kind of service. And she eventually does, but it's in this kind of circle thing, as we're introduced to Saracen, who thinks he's a vampire, which I do kind of like that. Porcupine, and later on we get Wrecker in there. And it's just like, alright, they're trying to work through their stuff. Jen finally found her stuff and is trying to figure out what's going on. But then, of course, Wrecker pops in, and she reacts, like, violently. She's like, this dude and his friends tried to jump my ass. And she pretty much pushes them, and that's pretty much the extent of the kind of stuff. I don't like that she went immediately. Like, I'm fine that she, like, She-Hulked out and was like, hey, this dude tried to get me, but we kind of get a redemption thing as he's, like, saying that he's working through his shit. We even got a whole cutaway of, like, previously on as they did it again. That was the only kind of, like, fourth wall thing that worked with this. I'm like, okay, cool. And he, like, apologizes and everything. I'm like, alright, but they're trying to make it seem like she overreacted. I'm like, this dude attacked her with 3 other dudes. Yeah, I'd be like, now, granted, I probably would try and figure out what the fuck he would be doing there and what the fuck's kind of going on. And then we get that Jennifer pretty much goes through her whole spiel of trying to figure out that she had Josh who wanted Jen, and that was nice to be wanted, but then he's ghosted her, and Wrecker pretty much brings that whole up. We get the whole thing that Porcupine wears this whole suit and to, like, protect himself. But he eventually takes it off, and I was like, oh god, that's stinky. Put that shit back on. We'll dry clean that shit. And he's like, alright, cool. But Jen's working through her feelings of, there's even the point where, like, She-Hulk's not enough for these people. And they're like, well, we like Jen, and we like She-Hulk. And everybody's like, alright, cool. And she turned back to Jen. She goes into the yurt thing, and she deletes Josh's number and everything like that. I'm like, okay, I get it. But like, it was just so amped up and so, like, dramatized to the point of, like, I kind of get it, but the thing is, 3 days is a longish time, but you still don't understand what's kind of going on with that kind of thing. Like, there could literally be something like Nikki's saying, like, he could be at work, he could be at the movies, he could be doing any kind of other thing, and just hasn't gotten back. And I understand that usually you want to respond to texts as adequately quickly as possible. But sometimes there's just things like you're doing shit, or you don't have access to your phone. Which I know sounds fucking insane, but, like, there's certain instances where you're like, not right now, motherfucker! Like, even where Jen's at, like, what if Josh was trying to get in contact with her during that whole thing? I mean, granted, the messages would load and everything, but, like, she's in a place that doesn't have service, so, you know? So, I kind of liked it, but I'm like, we still don't have the full information before we finally get the full information. So she kind of works through with the team. They give her a card thing, she gets towed back, and we see that 3 nights previously, Josh cloned her phone, took a picture of her, and pretty much texted to the Hulk King dude that he got this stuff and got her blood and everything. It's like, oh, great, yeah, he was a bad guy. So that did that out, but we still don't have any more information on what's kind of going on with that kind of stuff. And it's just, alright, this was kind of, except for the whole Josh bit, a pretty nothing episode. I mean, it didn't even really... I liked kind of what we saw with Emil, but I kind of actually wanted to feel like I got him and understood him as a character and what he was trying to accomplish with these other people and with Jen. It's just the length of the show really didn't give that much to deep dive with, especially when other kind of cutaway things were going on, like the whole montage of the dates and everything in the beginning. Now, granted, yes, you want to show shit, okay? I'm not disputing that fact. Thank you for showing it. It's just, it could have been done in a kind of better kind of manner that didn't take up as much time. And that I think that more time should have been done on Jen trying to figure out who she wants to be. Is She-Hulk Jen? Is Jen She-Hulk? How can she marry these two things that, like, Bruce was pretty much trying to get her to understand in, like, the first episode? You know what I mean? That, like, She-Hulk's a part of her. It's always going to be a part of her, and what's going to be going on with that. And some people will like She-Hulk, and some people won't like She-Hulk. Some people will like Jen, some people won't like Jen. And it's just how to deal with and figure out what kind of goes on with that, because they're not two separate people. They ebb and flow. They are one person. And I did like Emil kind of like rolling with that, but it was almost used more as too much of a comedic relief kind of thing rather than the serious kind of stuff that can be gone with that. And that's not to say that there can't be humor found in certain things, but it goes back to the whole misfire for me of the whole Fat Thor thing in Endgame. There is, like, you could do some light ribbing or whatnot, but when the whole thing turns into a joke and we see that the mental anguish that this character is going through for him failing his people consistently, trying to do the best that he can, and just seeing himself fail, and how people have been hurt and everything, and we deal with that by making fun of him for having more self-destructive kind of coping mechanisms of just drinking and eating and shutting himself away. I don't like that. Now, granted, we don't get to that kind of level here, but they were mainly just using it for, like, jokes of these, like, other characters of, like, oh, look, here's, like, certain characters that are probably from, like, obscure kind of Marvel stuff. Like, granted, I dive into the lore, but certain ones like Porcupine, El Aguila, and, like, Manbull and Saracen. Now, granted, I'm more familiar with, like, Wrecker and the Wrecking Crew, but it's just like, okay, because again, it goes between that different, you have to have a good kind of handle on when to do serious and when to do funny, and how to kind of marry the two. Otherwise, you get really too serious and you're like, man, I'm fucking down on this shit, kind of Game of Thrones style, where, like, hey, everybody's fucking dying and I shouldn't care about no one in this fucking story. And nothing's taken seriously, everything's a joke, and it just doesn't hit you. So, this is one of the ones where it's just like, wow, this had potential, and just, there's certain episodes that have certain things I'm like, alright, cool, like the beginning, Wong's episode, but I wouldn't blame people for just skipping this, and that sucks because I like She-Hulk's character, and I like the actress that they got for her. I just don't think anything is really hitting as much as it should be, and it's the execution for it. Like, if this was given its proper due and course, and definitely, I don't think 30 minutes is enough to do shit with the stories that they're attempting to do here. Like, it's not long enough for certain kind of things to be executed well enough, because they either rush through certain things or just fucking don't even try on certain things. It's like, alright. Ugh. So, those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.